In August 2008, Peter Yealand launched his own wine label. Yealand's estate is New Zealand's largest privately owned vineyard. The company is committed to using sustainable wine production practices.
We've been carbon zero since we started here, so the first thing you do to become carbon zero is you've got to measure your carbon footprint. Everything's measured, right from air travel for our sales guys, all the diesel, all the petrol, all the electricity. We measure all our wines right through to the port of destination. So we'll follow that litre of wine all the way through to, if it's going to England, right through to the port of Southampton. And then we collate all that data and we measure it and we come out with our carbon footprint. Last year our carbon footprint was 1,320 tonnes. We buy credits from the Tararua wind farm. 1 tonne equals to 1 credit, and at the moment on the market they're selling for $25. So last year we purchased 1,320 credits. Part of the Carbon Zero program is continual improvement. Every year we've got to be a little bit better than last year. So that's what really drives innovation here at Yealand. We started off with a new facility, and every year we've got to try and get a little bit better and a little bit better. The exterior, the product's called Kingspan. It's a fully insulated PIR panel, which is a little bit different than the poly panel. It's a fire retardant, it's not flammable at all, and it's got excellent insulation properties. As the rain falls down, it comes down straight off the edge of the building into the swale and then carries on into the ponds and then into our dam where it's used for irrigation. 20% of the product that comes in goes out as marc, which is just grape skins. That marc is transported up to a big marc pad and during the winter months turned into compost and then put back onto the vineyards. They did a survey a few years ago now on wineries, and the average kilowatts to make a litre of wine was 0.45. Here we're averaging about 0.27, so we're just almost half of the electricity consumption than the average winery. We've got wind generation, we've got solar panels, we've got heat recovery, we've got nighttime cooling, which gives us another advantage. We're only using electricity at night for our refrigeration. So there's a whole host of things we do. We get the water from the Aotearoa River, we pump it out of there, and then we treat all the waste ourselves. One of the big things with water is that we really encourage the guys not to use a hose as a broom. In other words, if it needs to be swept up, it's swept up and put into a container rather than hosed down the drain.
Vineyard manager Gareth Goodser is continuously looking at ways to improve efficiency.
We can go on to miniature sheep for grazing, so we're going to use less diesel, less herbicides, hopefully none, to control undervine weeds and that sort of thing. Each mowing round out here costs roughly about $30,000. It's about 4,000 k's of mowing each round out here. And if you're doing 7 or 8 kilometres an hour, you've got 500 or 600 hours of mowing time per mow round, and you're burning sort of 10 litres an hour of diesel. So it's a humongous, not only cost saving of the diesel, but your emissions and all that sort of thing is. There's an added benefit of that as well. And then there's the products that we put on undervine to get rid of the grasses and the weeds and that sort of thing. None of them are nasties anyway, but you've got the cost saving of not having to put those on. And that's probably the hardest thing about running the place out here is finding the time to weed spray because it's blowing all the time. Management-wise, it'd make a big difference to me if we didn't have to worry about that. There's a few people looking at us a bit funny when they're driving past in the middle of summer and we've got sheep out in the vines. But the baby doll sheep that we've got, we have had to change our trellis just a wee bit to suit them. We've just lifted it up a wee bit, but this far it's as good as gold. The sheep that we graze here in winter previously, they do a great job in winter, but obviously there's nothing here for them to eat apart from grass. And in the growing season they're just too large. They'll start eating your leaves and your bunches on your vines, especially early season. Whereas the baby doll sheep that we've got, they simply can't reach.
In the winery, the aim is also to work on improving the end product. Winemaker Tamara Washington explains.
We're just in the middle of our 3rd harvest here, so I'm really trying to build up a bit of a history. Because basically the way the whole winery and vineyard operates, everything's broken down into small blocks. So we harvest each block separately. So, for example, this year I think I've got in excess of 90 different blocks of Sauvignon Blanc. which I harvest separately, and then I really get to have a good feel for how each block is behaving and the flavours and sort of textures and things. And especially sort of for the first couple of years, because a lot of the vines were quite young, I knew that would be changing. So now this year I'm really going to hone in on each particular block, and it's a lot of potential out here, especially for Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Gris. Pinot Gris, which is our second variety by volume planted here. Really excited about what we can potentially do. And also Pinot Noir. We've had our first harvest of Pinot Noir from this vineyard, which is looking really good at the moment. Having all of our tanks inside, it's a big plus for energy saving, especially considering how well insulated the whole building is. And I think because the site, the extremes we have out here, the heat, the cold, the wind, the fact we're not sort of trying to counteract against that is a huge saving for us and for our workers who can be inside and not have to put up with rain, wind, heat. But it does help keep the temperature of our wines at a storage temperature of 10 degrees. I really, even in the middle of summer, have to put the cooling on because they'll be sitting about 10 degrees anyway. Traditionally, a lot of Pinot Noir is hand plunged, and it still is, but we're actually fermenting lots of 10 tonnes of Pinot Noir, which it's ineffective to hand plunge because the caps get really hard and it's just too much hard work. So what we've actually brought in this year is pulse air, whereby we inject either filtered air or filtered carbon dioxide, depending on the stage of cold soak or ferment. Inject that into the vessel and it actually makes the juice blast up and over the top of the cap or the skins, so it's all homogenised and mixed, and we're getting as much extraction as we would like out.
Basically what happens in a wine is when you're cooling wine down, you're basically removing heat. So all that wine that has to be cooled down, the heat that's in that wine is removed, and it's removed via evaporative condenser and pushed into the atmosphere. So before it goes to the atmosphere, we cover that through two different processes. One is the desuperheater heat exchanger, and the other one is the oil cooler heat exchanger. So we're actually recovering heat from two different aspects of our refrigeration, which is quite unique. We've just released the plastic bottles, the Full Circle brand. That's very exciting for us. It uses a lot less energy, a lot less carbon footprint, very lightweight. Ideally we want to use it for, we expect boaties and people, trampers and people going on picnic.
So you get a very vibrant flavour, a lot of citrus and fresh texture. Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge is around packaging. It's around glass and the amount of energy used and recycling of glass. So that's one of the big challenges the industry faces, is trying to reuse all that glass and get it back to the manufacturer. We've put our carbon zero sticker on our wine. People compete in the past on price and quality, and we believe in the future that we'll be competing on price, quality and also sustainability.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.